daily ride a thoroughbred sport bike, using it for everything from commuting to grocery getting, you must be blinded by the tenacity of youthful vigor or just be some sort of genetically superior being who is truly built different. Because for a vast majority of motorcyclists, sport bikes make awful daily riders. Let me explain. The most glaring reason why sport bikes make awful daily riders are the specialized aggressive ergonomics. The minute you swing over a true blue sport bike, we're talking R6s, Gixxer 1000, you reach down to the clip-ons, you'll immediately recognize that it is not what most would consider a comfortable or even normal position to be in. Sport bikes use clip-on handlebars that are connected to the fork tubes that sit low and forward. The foot pegs are further back and higher up than on any other style of motorcycle as well, and the seat height is sky high. This creates an overall aggressive and committed riding position that's advantageous for controlling the bike during track riding or spirited rip on some twisty roads, but it is in no way designed for sustained comfort for touring or commuting. The aggressive riding position of a sport bike can put strain on your wrists, knees, and back depending on your size and how you ride, and that's if you're even capable of fitting on a sport bike in the first place. Many larger riders struggle to be remotely comfortable on any sport bike smaller than a Hayabusa for even the shortest of rides. Motorcycle racing is a sport, and racers are athletes. A sport bike is a machine designed to be used by a professional or amateur racer in brief periods of high-performance riding. That, in and of itself, should be a justification enough that sport bikes aren't really ideal for daily use or long rides. I mean, you aren't gonna wear a pair of soccer cleats to the office, are you? Or drive an F1 car to the grocery store? I think some of you might. But sport bikes are a very specialized machine, built for the intended purpose of racing. Sure, a sport bike is far more of an accessibly priced high-speed death machine compared to something like a supercar for most riders, but the uncomfortable ergonomics are a small sacrifice to make for a super fast weekend toy. But even the most devout fast boys would be hard-pressed to say that they're comfortable to ride for extended periods of time or anywhere near practical for daily use, even though I know some of you are ride-or-die daily R6 riders. Dedicated sport bikes, whether they're 600s or 1000s, both make power in a way that's impractical for daily use, especially if you know that you're going to have to endure stoplights or stop-and-go traffic. A 600cc four-cylinder engine is designed with a short stroke to enable the engine to rev to super high RPMs at the expense of immediate low-down torque. Sure, we all agree that it's really fun revving a 600cc out to redline on a wide-open highway, but the trade-off of torque leaves a 600 incredibly disadvantaged in city traffic where you're going to be accelerating from low speeds or a dead stop relatively often. The Yamaha R6, one of the most highly regarded 600 class sport bikes for the last 20 years, makes max torque a mere 45 foot-pounds all the way at 10,500 RPM. There's just nothing convenient about that. And while you get a top-end rush, nimble handling, it is in no way practical for a daily rider for commuting or navigating congested urban areas. And I know the 600 simps are getting all hot and bothered in the comments section talking about how they love to ride 100 miles to work both ways uphill year-round on their 600 in the snow. To that, I will just say, you're either sick in the head or an ultimate Giga Chad lording over us peasants, because when it comes down to the straight facts, a 600 just doesn't make power in the way that's designed for convenient use. On the other side of the coin, there's 1000cc leader bikes. Oh, well, look at that, Yam, they've got the problem solved. They got bigger engines, they aren't lacking in the torque department, but they have so much power, you literally can ride them without ever leaving first gear, like you're on a super fast scooter or something. Let me put this into perspective for you. Most leader bikes can go almost 100 miles an hour in first gear, so to ride a leader bike on the street is going to take a lot of skill and self-control to avoid death or imprisonment. And look, I understand leader bikes are fun. I like them a lot. It's fun to hoon around and get those squid demons out in a safe place every once in a while. But trying to manage 200 horsepower on normal streets every day really is just exhausting after a while. I know all these bikes have tons of rider aids and safety tech features, but to constantly have to toe the line between control and oblivion every time you twist the throttle is incredibly fatiguing if that's your only do-it-all everyday bike for daily use. It's why we highly regard the naked bike class. You know, instead of an R1, look at an MT10. It's got more accessible torque in the middle, it doesn't rev as high, and it's way more comfortable to ride, and it's still wickedly fast. For a motorcycle to make a lot of power, it has to use a lot of fuel, especially if you're riding spiritedly. And while fuel range and fuel efficiency isn't a huge deciding factor for most riders shopping around for a bike, the less than ideal fuel range of a sport bike is definitely a disadvantage if you plan on riding it daily. It's not uncommon for a 1000cc sport bike to get about 150 miles to the tank, which means you should probably plan for refueling about every 130 miles or so, depending on when your fuel light comes on if your bike is equipped with one. 150 miles miles of range is perfectly fine if you use your bike for recreation, but when you're commuting and running errands on top of riding for pleasure, if you ride a sport bike, you're practically going to be stopping for gas every single day. And hey, this isn't the most inconvenient thing in the world. It doesn't take all too long to fill a 4.5-gallon gas tank, but it can definitely be an unnecessary undertaking that would otherwise be avoided if you opted for something other than a sport bike for your daily rider, especially when the constant need to refuel is compounded with other disadvantages you have with that bike. You know, hyper naked is not going to have a stunning fuel range either, but hey, at least your back isn't going to hurt at the end of the ride. Whereas on the complete other end of the spectrum, if you're in search of unmatched practicality, a bike like a Versys 650 has a 5.5-gallon tank and gets upwards of 50 miles to the gallon, which will allow you to comfortably achieve a 250 miles of range. Sure, you'll be sacrificing speed, style, and panache, but sometimes that practical convenience is just oh so sweet. If your intention is to use your motorcycle as your daily form of transportation, having options for luggage and storage are a big necessity, and the utter lack of storage options for most sport bikes discredit them further as being ill-equipped for daily riding. If you got a sport bike, your options are pretty much limited to a backpack and a net strapped over your passenger pillion, and sure, you can get away with the backpack for a while if you're just going on a trip to and from work, but if you need to get groceries or go on a longer trip, it's gonna be a bit foolish to even consider going a couple 100-mile day trip with some basic tools, a tire plug kit, and a portable inflator, and any trip that's longer than a day will require an extra set of clothes, toiletries, and other belongings. And of course, there's always workarounds. You could get a tail bag, a tank bag. You can really try your best to eke out as much square footage of storage as possible on the sport bike, but if you're routinely needing to carry cargo while riding, the limited options and inconvenient solutions for carrying things on sport bikes just really aren't worth the hassle. Sport touring bikes, adventure bikes, cruisers, and even naked bikes are all far better at carrying luggage and have more plug-and-play options to accommodate your cargo needs. But hey, they make hard case luggages for Hayabusas, so what the hell do I know? Motorcycles that produce a lot of power, like sport bikes, are also going to require more frequent or intensive service and maintenance. To produce crazy power figures, sport bike engines have high compression ratios, high RPM redlines, and are operating in a much higher state of tune to produce maximum power. And that's really what we love about them. But this stress not only puts it on the engine, but plenty of other components as well, making regular maintenance absolutely imperative. If you're daily riding a sport bike, those service intervals tend to creep up more quickly than you might think. You're just going to have to change your oil more frequently than you would on a more docile motorcycle, and you also have to put more wear and tear on your tires and brakes that further lead to increased maintenance costs. And this is an aside that I want to have with you guys about sport bikes, is if you're running hypersport tires like a Dunlop Q5 or a Pirelli Supercorsa SP, you can expect those tires to last about 3,000 to 4,000 miles at the rear with spirited riding. And that's because these motorcycles just put out so much power. If you have a more demure motorcycle riding on a sport touring tire, you can regularly get like 12,000 miles on a rear. That means you're going to spend 3 times as much on tires on a sport bike than you would with a comparable sport touring bike or even a naked bike that you're riding a little bit more chill. How do I know that? From experience. And while there's plenty of super powerful hyper naked motorcycles that are also going to run through consumables more frequently than a less powerful bike, they're way easier to work on though. Sport bikes are fully entombed in plastic fairings, which makes even regular and routine service a bit of a hassle than it would on other types of bikes. If you have a more expensive bike, usually that ends up needing to translate to more expensive service and parts if you ever need to go back to the dealer for work. Looking at you, Aprilia and Ducati. When using a motorcycle as a daily form of transportation, you definitely want to pursue a bike that's not only more comfortable or convenient, but has long service intervals and affordable consumables, because those miles really do rack up more quickly than you may be used to if you're only riding for pleasure. I remember I put on about 20,000 miles on my first Daytona 675R in the first year that I owned it. I was riding it all the time, and let me tell you, I really spent a lot on tires and maintenance and consumables and oil changes, and it just really wasn't worth it. That's why I ultimately got one as a track-only bike, and then I raced it. It was way more fun. I am beyond excited to finally share this bike with you guys, our brand new MT09 SP giveaway bike. I've wanted to do one of these bikes as a giveaway for years, and the stars finally aligned. This thing is a riot to ride, and I think it's one of the very best street motorcycles you can buy right now. Ample power, awesome tech, and a spicy triple-cylinder power plant. Lock in 20x entries for every dollar you spend when you pick up a hat, a t-shirt, or anything else you want over at yammynoob.co. And as always, members have the ability to earn entries automatically and stack them up to apply to future giveaways. We're not slowing down towards the end of the year with some amazing 3-day giveaways and some outrageously spicy top-shelf bikes. Head over to yammynoob.co and get started today. Sport bikes also get hot, like really hot. I'm looking at you, Ducati, and if you're riding in the summer, stuck in stop-and-go traffic, you're bound to be fully soaked in gooch juice by the time you arrive to your destination. And who wants to monopolize what already limited storage space they have by stuffing their backpack full of extra pairs of underwear? I remember in 2020, we did a review on a Yamaha R1 we did as a giveaway bike, and we had to ride it in the dead of summer, and it was excruciating. And also the Ducati V4R that we had back last year. Oh my god, that motorcycle was warm. Sport bikes can produce more heat than other types of bikes for a multitude of reasons. The high power output in and of itself is a factor. High power output with high RPMs, high compression ratios, and tight tolerances are all going to result in additional heat. That's basic thermodynamics. Sport bikes are purpose-built bikes, so the frame design, engine placement, and overall geometry have a substantial impact on how well a motorcycle performs on track. So the trade-off for specific placement and orientation of the engine is that more heat ends up trapped within the bike instead of being channeled away. Fairings, which aid in both aerodynamics and the aesthetic allure that all fast boys gush over, also result in more heat being trapped in the bike and ultimately poses a risk to your man parts. It probably doesn't help that sport bikes are often ridden aggressively, which also has the engine operating at higher temperatures. The excessive heat are one of the trade-offs of a high-performance sport bike, and since these bikes aren't designed to be dailied or toured with, this heat is a concession most sport bike aficionados are willing to deal with at the track or on a spirited ride. But it is a significant disadvantage if you're trying to commute or run errands in the summertime when you're decked out in riding gear. And lastly, sport bikes aren't really known for being great at accommodating passengers. A sport bike is already less than comfortable for riders, and adding a passenger on the back sitting on the smallest pillion ever invented takes the discomfort up to a whole new level. If you intend on daily riding a motorcycle, the ability to take a passenger is a pretty significant advantage. In a car, you can take 5, 7, 15, 20, 30 people depending on how flexible the clowns are, but on a sport bike, taking even one passenger is not ideal. And newsflash, this might be a letdown for a lot of baby squids out there who are just getting their feet wet with riding women, dare I say. Most women don't really care for riding on the back of a motorcycle in general. So if you're going to be limited to sitting on a 6-inch piece of the hardest foam ever known to man with their feet just below them on the super tall passenger pegs, they're going to have a terrible time. If you're getting a bike to get a girl, just get a puppy instead. Seriously, get a puppy, go to your local park, sit at a bench, watch women come flock to you. Women do not care about motorcycles at all. The novelty and allure will quickly wear off when they start losing their feeling in their appendages. Dailying a motorcycle is already a challenge on even the most equipped motorcycle, and as you deal with weather and fatigue and battle the limitations of storage capacity. But trying to daily a sport bike that makes inappropriate power, has uncomfortable ergonomics, a limited range, and can't easily accommodate luggage or a passenger is really an epic misunderstanding of the intended purpose of such machines. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. I'm sure the Chads who daily their sport bikes have already made themselves loud and clear in the comments section. If you want more exclusive YamiNoob content, head over to yaminoob.co and explore our membership page. You'll get access to our Discord server, you'll be able to contribute to our new live streams, and earn automatic entries to win our giveaway bikes. We've got an MT09 SP up for grabs right now. We have several more motorcycles coming towards the end of this year. Our community is super awesome and is one of the favorite things that I do here on the channel, so head over there and check it out if you want a more intimate view of the YamiNoob zeitgeist. Thanks again, I will see you later. Fact: in ancient Egypt, servants were coated in honey to attract flies away from the pharaoh. Goodbye. Well, that's it. That's the end of the video. And you might be saying, woo, what's that spicy little meatball right there next to you? This is the MT09 SP, and in case you live under a rock, it's our newest giveaway bike, and I am ridiculously excited about it. This thing is the best, in my opinion. There's no better street bike. It's awesome. So, head over to yaminoob.co, become a member, and get access to win this motorcycle. It could show up right there in your driveway. But as you sit there and debate which membership option is going to be right for you, click the link right over here and keep watching some sweet YamiNoob. We have thousands of videos, I think. 2,000? 1,500? We have a ton of videos. Go and check them out.